The MaddK Studio Show.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the MaddK Studio Show. I've got a special guest today that I'm pretty excited about. It's one of my online friends, and in the world of COVID and everything that happens in the last couple of years, you know, people make new friends, and Adam Rothstein is one of my new friends I met on the Nomad Network, which is a place for entrepreneurs to gather together and talk about how to build their businesses and work together. And it's really been a godsend over the last couple of years. And Adam is one of the guys that is on the network that we both are pretty much regulars on the Wednesday night. Every Wednesday night on the network, Jason Stapleton, the one that puts this network together, has a 1 hour get together called the Winner's Circle, where we all get together and talk about the successes for the week. And boy, I tell you what, Adam and me have both been on, I think, almost every single one of them. And there's times when Jason can't make it, and it's usually one of the two of us, or like a couple of weeks ago, both of us together at the same time. We'll take over and just kind of run the meeting just to keep things going and talk to everybody. But anyway, in the world of podcasting, which this is a podcast, I believe this is number 11. I have to double check. But, you know, I started this a year ago and I've got 11 podcasts. Now, the trick of podcasts, I'm going to talk as a podcast expert here. The trick of podcasts is to be consistent and persevere through whatever you got to do to make sure you get those done. So this has been a once a week podcast that, like I said, this is number 11, and I started a year ago. So hence the reason I've got Adam on tonight, because obviously my persistence is not very good. So Adam, welcome to the show. And I'd love to talk about some of the persistence that we've had in the 365 challenge, which was something we did on the Nomad Network. Was a little challenge to publish something every single day for 365 days. I went, when I did my counting and my numbers, I missed 15 days. So I think that's pretty good, but I'm pretty sure you missed 0 days, didn't you?
Yeah, I missed 0 days. And I was also posting things on Instagram, and unfortunately that got hacked. And now I'm back on it with the Goalie Kid Podcast at the Goalie Kid Podcast, and that's just specifically for business. And I don't like using something that doesn't say isn't like secure the same way my Gmail is. But yeah, and also it was also a time for me that when I self-promoted myself, right now I'm like, I looked at my Find Away Voices profile. I have sold over like close to 4 dozen audiobooks already. And I'm just a year and a half into that.
Well, that's really cool. Tell me a little bit more about the audio book that you're doing, because I know something about it, but I know people that'll be listening, the 7 or 8 people that are listening. But I'd like to hear some more about it from from your point of view.
Well, I've got the Goalie Kid Podcast, which is an audiobook version of a podcast, but each episode is its own chapter, and I'm putting like maybe 50 chapters or maybe less. And it's a once every 2 weeks show now. Chess, the Game for Peace and Prosperity, was 40 minutes, but that was specifically for retail. And the reason why I made that was to promote the game of chess, and also sort of show that it was a game for building community, and also helping people see past other people's differences as well.
Oh, that's great. I like chess was a game, boy, I learned that early on when I was in elementary school, learned how to play chess, and I really enjoyed it. I never took it to like any kind of higher chess playing levels, but it's a game that I think that I don't know if people are playing it as much as they used to. Probably not, because everyone's on their everyone's on TikTok. But I think that, just the sheer idea of the game of chess, you do start seeing it in movies where you see a lot of movies where the guys are playing chess in a park. And I think that's good for that whole genre. I mean, I think, chess is something that challenges your mind, and it really is a great way of spurring competition in a way that is I guess it's competition without being violent, but you're in the world of what you're doing in chess, it's violent. You're conquering your opponent. I mean, you're literally conquering, you're taking them out one by one. But I think the beauty of chess is it's such a wonderful way to be able to do that in a sheerly intellectual, non-violent way. And every game's different.
Yeah. And I mean, you kind of have video games as well. Certainly with like EA Sports. That was really big growing up. I played a lot of MVP baseball and Madden, and college was more of the FIFAs and the NHL games, which we played the heck out of at parties.
Well, and you were a hockey player, weren't you?
Yeah,
you still are. Right?
I mean, I had 2 newspaper articles before I could drive, and I had a magazine article in USA Hockey when I was 18. So
cool.
That was when I got to Towson University, and that's a university in Maryland, just 8 miles away from Baltimore. So
no kidding.
So so it's unfortunate I didn't go to Orioles games. Geez, should have taken someone on it, like on an Orioles date, but it would have just been pretty busy at the time, and you still have to keep up with hockey as well.
Right.
And yeah,
hockey is a brutal sport. I don't mean brutal in the sense of, the actual game. It can be, of course, but it's a brutal sport in the amount of hours you need to dedicate to it. As you and I have discussed before, one of the things that I used to do for a living in the late 90s, I worked for a company called Miska Design, and we painted goalie masks. So we painted all the goalie masks for Ed Belfour and Hobby Bullen. And when the Minnesota Wild, were formed, we did all the masks and stuff for those guys, and all the Big Ten colleges, the U of M. In fact, on 9/11, I was working on the goalie mask for the U.S. Olympic team's goalie on 9/11 on that day. I'll never forget. It's that, there's that moment that you never forget in your life. Yeah. That was it. But I'm not a big sports fan. I grew up in Boston. So that's I was the only guy that wasn't a big sports fan, but still Red Sox games at Fenway, growing up all through the 70s and 80s and going to those, being in high school, and we'd load up. My buddy had an 83 Buick Regal 2-door, and we'd load up, we'd put a milk crate, it fit right between the front and the back seat perfectly in the middle. And we'd fill that with cheap Budweiser beers and a bag of ice, because he didn't care if it dripped or nothing. So we'd go to Fenway and we'd sneak all the beers in, because we're 17, 18 years old. And then, when we're out, we have to go back out to the car and then sneak more in. And we did that for a long time. We'd sit behind the Green Monster, and you talk about rivalries. You always try to get there in a Yankees game, because boy, the Red Sox Yankees games were, it was the Wild West up behind the bleachers there. It was really something.
I was 11 years old when I went to Fenway, and I was with what I would consider my cousin, because my father's friend essentially is, in a way, kind of like that brotherly relationship,
Sure.
Sort of like in Death of a Salesman, the one neighbor calls him, "Oh yeah, Uncle."
Yeah, exactly.
I forgot his name. I do too. But yeah, it was sort of like that relationship. I think I was 30 feet away from David Ortiz. I did not get his autograph.
Man.
So I was a bit disappointed. And then that green Wally guy was signing the tickets, and I still have a physical ticket of when they played the Angels. So Johnny Damon was playing, David Ortiz was playing. I think Jason Varitek was still the catcher, if I'm not mistaken. And and Manny Ramirez was still on the team. It was the year after they won that tremendous World Series too.
Right. So it must have been 05. Yeah, when they won, that was something else. I'm quite a bit older. I was in the oil can Boyd days, and Bill Buckner. I'm terrible with sports names, because like I said, I'm not a fan, but Billy Buckner was the guy that lost the World Series for them because a ground ball went through his legs. He still to this day has trouble in Boston. People give him crap about that. That was like in 1986.
Yeah. Well, that's technically not his fault. I think everyone says it is because I mean, even if he makes the play, Mookie Wilson could have still been safe. Roger Clemens was still in for too long. That's sort of the problem. It like the game was already, tied.
Right.
And even if he makes the play and gets the out, I mean, there's still a million things that could happen. And Shea Stadium, they have the home field advantage too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but the thing is though, it's Boston and they just picked him and they said it's his fault. Get him.
I went to Shea too.
I've never been there.
I think I've been, unfortunately, that stadium did not last, and now it's Citi Field.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's like where the Bruins used to play, Boston Garden. I never went to a Bruins game, but there used to be something called the Ice Capades, and it was an ice show. So a lot of the Olympic skaters and stuff, they put on this big ice show and they travel around the country. It was a big deal for, I don't know, probably 40 years. And my dad, being a musician in Boston, would play, and they didn't have like recorded background music. It was they hired local guys and they had a band, and the band would play the music and then people would skate to it and stuff. It was like a show. But I'd go with them and they'd do 4 or 5 shows a day. And so him and I would go to Boston Garden, and I'm like, think about this. I'm 10 or 11 years old. It's like 1977, 78. And we go to Boston Garden at like 8 or 9 in the morning with my dad. And he's like, all right, well, meet me up here at noon. We'll have lunch after the matinee show. And then there's 3 more shows. And then, but I basically just ran around Boston Garden by myself as a 10-year-old. And we do this year after year after year, but you got to know all of the other kids that were in the band, their parents, and the skaters' kids were all there. So I'm backstage, I'm running around. I knew every inch and secret doorway and passage of the Boston Garden by the time I was 12. It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
That's nice. Speaking of background music, I certainly sort of wish, doing that, I put something in for my audiobook, Growing the Game. It was not, I don't think I did, like, it was my first one that I recorded, and it turned out terrible. There were a lot of errors, a lot of mistakes with it. I got 2 people to buy it off the website, and then I took it down and just put it on Audible as well. But then for Chess the Game for Peace and Prosperity, I did everything right. I tuned it. I met all the standards for ACX, which is the standards you must meet for all of them. And for anyone that wants to start, to have that audiobook and just develop
where can people find that? Is there a website they can go to?
They can go to my Gumroad Publish Mastery course that will help people make an audiobook, also get their physical and digital books published on Barnes & Noble and Amazon.
Very
so
cool.
It definitely raises your status. And what I've found with Findaway Voices is that it distributes your audiobook now to over 50 audiobook platforms, which is, I didn't know that when I first started.
That's great.
50. So imagine, so you're on TikTok now, and I think, and I never joined TikTok, and you'd think I'd be the one to join it because I'm 28 and you're,
and I'm 53. The old guy on TikTok.
And I'm thinking, that algorithm very early on helped. You had Foot Doc Dana, you had Only JS as well, just probably the 2 big ones that I can think of right now, become famous from that because they got in early. Now, some of the newer audiobook platforms are there early, and I'm getting like this royalty of 96 cents from like Kubo audiobooks. I'm like thinking, what is Kubo?
How do you get the money then? So like you say, because I know you get your royalties. How do they physically get you the money? I mean, it's only 96 cents, I know right now, but what happens when you put 3 zeros behind that?
When you
how
put
does the
3
process work?
zeros behind that, 96 cents, you put 3 zero. Okay, that's 900 and okay, $960. We'll just say that.
Yeah.
Okay, when you meet the $10 threshold, for Find Away Voices, they'll pay you. And for me, I've earned about 16 or 17 dollars so far. So I've got one payout and I've got another one on the way. So but that's specifically for Chess the Game and for Peace and Prosperity.
Sure.
As
well, and
well.
also on this for everyone listening, I'll make sure, Adam, I'll have you send me links to everything. So when we put this up, I'll make sure the links are below. So, and I recommend everyone go check out his stuff. I mean, it's a shame your Instagram got hacked. He got hacked bad, you guys. It was bad. And because you had so much content up there that was fantastic. You've also, Adam's been a person that's helped me with when I started doing some of these things, I was recording in Audacity, and I was trying to record some stuff in Audacity. When I do voiceovers, I still use Audacity. And I had a million questions and he had a million answers, which were all very helpful. So I very much appreciate that. And I know that that's something that you've been really kind of working well with, was Audacity and how to use it and adapt voices and adapt just to sounds and edit that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and Adobe Audition was another real good one, but for the functionality of ACX, I talk specifically about that on my YouTube channel. I made how to do the function and just implement that little tool, and you click one button and it raises the audio levels to about 3.5. Now you're still going to see those the background noises, and you still have to go over it and search for it, but that is a time saver right there, if you want to get that distributed. And getting the bit rate, the constant bit rate, like I'm wondering what's this, and you go through all this, you learn these standards, and I'm like thinking, oh my god, I can't, like, oh geez, this is so difficult. And people from high school, people from my college days are impressed by it. Like they see it, they see that hustle, and it's great. Even on the website, this skill has definitely helped me, because now I can put an audio e-card together and do voice impressions, whether it's Palpatine or Darth Vader, or even just narrate something for them for a special occasion, like an anniversary, Valentine's Day, Halloween, Christmas.
This is totally off subject, but we're just having a conversation. Are you much of a Star Wars fan? You mentioned some Star Wars stuff. I'm a Star Wars nut, so I'm just wondering.
Yeah, don't like the sequels too much. I'm not hating on like Daisy Ridley or Adam Driver or Oscar, whatever his name was. Yeah, like I'm not hating on them. I think like they had a perfect thing ready to go from like 10 years ago, and I wouldn't have mind them CGIing this, and they certainly did it with Jeff Bridges 5 years earlier.
Right.
And I saw Tron Legacy. I did not like that movie at 16 years old.
Yeah.
But they CGI'd even Princess Leia in Rogue One. I was about to say Rogue Squadron, Rogue One, and I'm thinking, okay, why can't you just CGI this, have the perfect story ready to go, and you make this. But this is but I don't want to get too hyped up on Star Wars now.
I go down there. I'll tell you, I don't know if we can see it. I'm gonna try and show something here with my completely unprofessional setup when I'm going to show you here, but this is in my basement. See over there in the corner?
Oh, it's R2.
It is. So
Oh.
that back in, sorry, for everyone listening to the podcast, you're unfortunate. Go to my YouTube page, maddkstudio.com, and watch it. Because you can show my little R2D2. In the late 90s, when some of the other ones were coming out, the ones that I really didn't like, the middle Star Wars movies, I call them. And Pepsi made a whole bunch of these things that were put in convenience stores. It's a cooler. So you'd put ice in the top of it and Pepsi in there, and it would sit by the register. And that's where you could get, it was an advertisement. And I always wanted one because I'd stop every day for coffee in the morning on the way to work. And the place had one. It was like there for like 2 years. And I'm like, I have to have that. I put a piece of tape with my name on it and my phone number on the back and everything. And then one day I went in, it was gone. And they're like, oh yeah, well, the boss's son wanted, or, the typical thing. I didn't get it. So last year in September, one popped up on Facebook Marketplace for $150. I'm like, don't sell it. I PayPal'd him right that minute. I'm like, do you have a PayPal account? I'll pay you right now. I can't come to get it till Saturday. And he's like, no problem. And I go over to his house and he's a Star Wars collector because, who else is going to have a life-size R2D2? I love it. I'm so excited about that thing. I mean, I need to get the baby Yoda to put inside of it because the top dome of him is it's clear. It has all the R2D2 markings, but it's clear. So I'm going to put a baby Yoda in it because I use it for storage for my electrical cords and stuff like that.
I grew up. I didn't see Star Wars, any Star Wars, till Revenge of the Sith. So I went in seeing Anakin's tragic side. And yes, for those who haven't seen Star Wars, yes, Anakin Skywalker is Darth Vader. Yeah. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
Okay, so my perspective on it was very different.
Sure.
And also I didn't really understand the backside of the Clone Wars either until like 2008 came along, and we really loved, and people my age really loved it,
right?
As well. And getting a little off topic, we also loved Transformers Prime too. Like those two shows were probably the best on a computer or a traditional 3D or non-traditional 2D animation.
Right.
But those 3D animated, those were probably the best 3D animated cartoons I've ever seen. Unless something was better than that, I have not seen anything better than.
So you said you're 27?
I was about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm trying to put my daughter's 20. Well, she'll be 27. Logan, she'll be 27 in a little bit. But so you grew up. I remember watching the cartoons and stuff with her because that Cartoon Network was kind of a new thing back then. It had just started. So you guys got all of the really good cartoons on Cartoon Network. Remember Cow and Chicken and
I do not remember Cow and Chicken.
Johnny Bravo.
I remember a little bit of him. I remember Transformers Armada. There was a little bit of Dexter's Lab, but that got taken off the air for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Then there were the Powerpuff Girls, and
Girls.
But personally, I went there were them. They flew around, and I thought it was too girly, and yet I wound up liking Totally Spies a little better for whatever reason. Probably like the James Bond aspect of it.
Yeah.
It was not like it's that human element of why some people like Batman over Superman,
right?
Because it's that humanized element. They relied on their gadgets.
Yep,
he's fallible. And they still had a mentor, kind of like Bruce Wayne and Alfred.
Yeah, Alfred.
As well, but it was a team of three too.
Right. No, I agree with that. It was it was a pretty good time in TV show, and there was stuff that I didn't like. The Disney Channel had gotten started, and there were so many in the early 2000s. There were so many absolutely horrific shows on the Disney Channel that were all like, it was actors, they were like sitcoms, but for preteens and kids. Like Victor, was it? No, it was Victorious. And then there was
no. That was Nickelodeon.
That was Nickelodeon that had that. Okay. I couldn't remember.
Like that did not, like iCarly was
iCarly. Yeah, that was another
was
one.
better than Victorious, and Victoria Justice was not, like, she really did get the short end of the stick out of all of them.
Mhm.
Like everyone seemed to go up a foot, especially Ariana Grande.
I know, she was the annoying little kid on that show, and she's now turned into the superstar. And well, it's in, what's his name from Transformers? He was on that.
Even Stevens,
Stevens.
Shia LaBeouf, and then there was Megan Fox, but probably the person that I will always remember most, or the two people that I'll remember most, is Peter Cullen and Frank Welker. So Peter Cullen was the voice of Optimus Prime. He inspired me in many ways. And Frank Welker, Megatron, obviously. And they both did a great job in Transformers Prime as well. Like they, when you were there since 1984,
right?
Doing those voices in the studio, you see each other every time. And there's been probably hundreds, if not even 1,000 voice actors for Transformers, the entire series. You got Beast Wars, you've got Armada, you got the Unicron trilogy. You have so much too,
right.
and also the anime versions. There are so many versions of Transformers, because the formula works. The idea of him, valuing freedom and life, of Optimus Prime valuing freedom and life, was a testament. It transcends time and the games too, of the war for Cybertron.
Right.
Really.
Well, it was a commentary on society, really. I mean, it gave the adults something to have interest in too. And I just, being 53, I graduated from high school in 86. I missed the whole Transformers thing until the movies came out. My wife, on the other hand, she liked it. She used to watch it and watch it with the kids. I missed that. I was in the age before there was Transformers. There was a show in the 80s called Trailblazers. It was 1980, 81. And it was a similar kind of thing. They're out, fighting for good. And the Trailblazers show, there was the main ship. I mean, it was a ship. So what they had done, it was in the future, and these people had on Earth had gone back and resurrected old battleships from World War II, and they've converted them into spaceships. So here's this World War II battleship, and there was a big hole in the front of it that originally was where it got sunk, where a torpedo hit it. Well, and they made that hole into a giant, almost like Death Star. It was called the wave motion gun. I'll never forget this. But when you're looking for something to do on YouTube and you can't find anything, look at Trailblazers. The animation for back then was good. You look at it now and it's really cheesy, kind of like the original Transformers. The original animation of it from the original series compared to what later happened. It wasn't as good, but the show was really cool. And it's interesting because you watch it and it had an anime feel to it because it was a Japanese cartoon. So it's dubbed, and but it was very American in its context. It was American ship. A lot of these guys are Americans that were fighting, and they're out in space doing stuff. But that's pretty cool. Trailblazers. I hadn't thought about that in a long time.
There was a lot when I was 13, I saw it in theaters, and the first one with the Michael Bay version.
Yeah.
And I think and the one element that Transformers Prime took was that Bumblebee did not talk, and it sort of and it sort of like made it good. You know, they made it really work with him. And he and you know, he's still like, even though he's a warrior in training, he's like still probably the youngest of the actual robots, even though he's like tens of millions of years old. You know, he's still, you know, and by the end of it, you know, he gets his voice back, and he's essentially leading his team, and just making that difference, because he learned so much, and he learned under Optimus Prime and as well. Wow.
Well, this is what we call going off on a tangent, but that's okay. Hey, the guys, I don't know if you listen to their podcast, but Vincent Ferrari, they have a podcast called Because We Make. It's him and Ethan Carter. And we went on that show, and we were going to talk about art and stuff like that. And we ended up talking for like a half an hour about Knight Rider and the TV show and Trans Ams. So don't feel bad.
Oh, this one time, you were not there. I told Vincent Ferrari that I went to high school with the cousin of Taylor Swift, and you're never going to guess her name. I don't think you will.
No, I won't.
No. Seriously, take a guess.
Take a guess. Taylor Swift's cousin. Rebecca Swift, or was it a guy?
Her name was Taylor Swift. And by the way, we were born, I'm pretty sure we were born at the same hospital. Unless she was not born in Maryland. I mean, like everyone was born at Shady Grove for most of the part, which is a hospital in Montgomery County, but
wow,
it's probably the most busiest, certainly during the 90s when I was born. But we went to the same middle school, same high school. Haven't seen her since about like May 30th or whenever the prom night was.
Right.
Haven't seen her since. Communicated with her a few times on the gram before that got hacked, and Facebook and everything. But
sure.
Yeah.
We're
seen her
getting back to our to kind of bring it back around to our online stuff and what you've been doing, and like I said, the persistence that you've been doing. Where are you having your which outlet, whether it's social media or anything, what is your most successful outlet that you're using right now?
Right now it's YouTube. It was Instagram at one point, but even still, like those were only getting like maybe a dozen or so likes. But YouTube, I've got 117 subscribers right now.
Wow, that's growing nice.
Yeah,
that's growing nice.
And I've got about 1,100 hours watched. You need 4,000 to get monetized, and you need 1,000 subscribers. So go subscribe there. And I will make
what's your YouTube page?
It's just Adam Rothstein.
Perfect.
Type that in. You'll see two of them. I'm the one with the most subscribers.
That's nice to say, isn't it?
Yeah. So I don't have to worry about that Adam Rothstein with the two dogs on the couch. I don't even have dogs. I could not take care of a dog. I mean, I'd rather just, have 2 or 3 kids and then just be.
I'm gonna just hold this up for anyone that's
viewing. That's the one. And you see the Goalie Kid, you see the Blue Oasis podcast. Yeah, that's the one.
So there you go. That one's it. So it's Adam Rothstein, ADAM ROTHSTEIN. And
I should have 120 subscribers, maybe 117, anywhere around there.
Yep, somewhere around there, 117. 300. Now listen to this, you guys. All right. Now, when did you start this page? Do you remember?
I started this page. The first video I made, I think, I think you're gonna really love this one. Go back to the old, do the search filter of the oldest, and you'll see my first video. My thoughts on becoming an entrepreneur. I'm pretty sure that's the title.
That sounds
And
good.
that had over 100 views since 2019. And I'm thinking like, and this is before we met. This is before Jason knew who I was, and I was already taking the leap. I was working on doing sound effects, and you can see the Fortnite poem, and I was also recording Robert Greene's the 48 Laws of Power.
Yeah,
and this is like really early stuff, but I'm taking these first steps as well. And
what I'm getting to is that you started that 2 years ago, and you've got 321 videos. That's an accomplishment. That is persistence. That's staying at it, and no matter what, getting it done and getting it out there. I commend you for that, because I'm not, I came in last year, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to go to my page so I can see where I'm at right now. I've got, are you ready for this? 51 subscribers. And I've had that page for 2 years. Yeah, 2 years. Yeah. So I'm at 51 subscribers and 41 views. So we have about the same amount of time that we've put it on there. I've got 51 subscribers and 41 videos. And I'm nowhere near the 4,000 hours of video time. So I'm just comparing what you've done with what I've done in the same amount of time. And you and I are running in the same circles of what to do and how we do it. And this is why I wanted you on, because it does help to keep me going, to keep creating and keep moving forward. When I see what you're doing, I'm like, man, Adam is just killing it out there. And you're just chugging along one day at a time, getting things done and getting it put up there. And it keeps getting better and better.
The one thing that I've realized is that people love how-to videos. Because everyone wants to start that path, and I know the building blocks. I know how to get stuff published on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and even United Masters. And if you're not familiar with music, that is a publishing platform where you can get your audio tracks onto places like Spotify and Apple Music and Pandora, if you still use that. I do want to tell you this story.
Yeah, go ahead.
In 2014, 2015, when I'm still in college and I'm like really living it up, everyone asked me, Adam, do you have a Spotify account? And I'm like, no, I got Pandora. And it's like, weird. Like, yeah. And Spotify right now is probably the platform where I'm receiving the most amount of downloads.
Yeah.
That or Apple. I can't even think. It's really close, because like those are the two players. And I think Google, for if you want to add a third, it would be Google or maybe iHeartRadio, but the two big players are Apple and Spotify for podcasts.
Right. And those are the two. Mine, that's where I get the most watches too, is on that. Absolutely.
I can't even think the last time I used Pandora. Actually, maybe 2 years ago. And I just like, and when I'm like just not using YouTube every day, because there are some things on YouTube that like it has a weird algorithm, but Pandora will stay on rock. It will stay on that genre, but with the YouTube music playlist, they go all over the place.
Yeah, they go. I like this. The Spotify I like. I have Pandora. I still have Pandora at work. I use sometimes, but I got Spotify at work too. And I like because I like to find new music in different genres that I'm looking for. And I find that Spotify does a better job of showing me more, a better variety of something in a genre, where Pandora they sometimes go off in a tangent like we just did. It's like, I'm like, well, that's going way out. If I got like blues or, old school blues that I want to listen to, they'll start bringing in some R&B from like the 2000s. I'm like, that's not part of it. I want to hear the old school blues, or I want to hear funk, or I want to hear classical or something like that. And it kind of, their algorithms mix it up a little bit. But I do like Spotify after we finally got it. I bought it for the kids because they wanted it. And then, you get, I think 5 or 6 licenses for it or whatever back that time. This is probably 5-6 years ago. started using it, and I like it now. So
Yeah. I will. I mean, I'm still using it mostly for podcasts. And sometimes I'll put on some music, but there is, but like, and I still use YouTube a bit because there are still some songs that you have to search out, and you can't skip too much on Spotify unless you subscribe, but premium. But I'd rather just take um like if you put on a good like I will just put things on my likes and then just just have my workout playlist ready to
right.
go, um and then just work out and just but it is but sometimes it's just more fun to listen to like the Aaron Torres podcast, sport podcast,
Okay.
by the way, or even the minimalists or something in term. But talking baseball is probably one of my favorites. And speaking of baseball, that's probably not coming back for a while.
Yeah, it looks like they got a strike getting ready to go on or something, aren't they?
Yeah, they're striking. I was about to make the trek to Sarasota for an alumni event that actually involved my university because the Orioles were playing at Ed Smith Stadium against the Braves, who I've just fallen in love with ever since coming down here to Florida. Which you'd think I'd fall in love with the Marlins or the Rays, but no, I fell in love with Freddie Freeman and the Braves instead.
Huh.
So I did, yeah. So I'm glad they won the World Series, and they almost won it in 2020. They
Right.
I'll tell you this. Marcell Ozuna, who unfortunately went to jail, um, um, like there is this player who and I grew up a Yankees, the son of a big time Yankee fan. So apologies,
Yeah,
Ken.
I won't hold that against you. You seem to have recovered okay.
So funny. Mookie Betts makes probably the best catch I've seen in some time, and it's like shoestringed down. He's got a bend, and he somehow makes the catch. And Ozuna did not tag, and he's called out. And it's like thinking like, oh my god, like I hate like he was a Red Sox, and I'm like thinking, oh, I hate you. I hate you so much. The Braves should have had that. They were up 3-1, and unfortunately not. Probably the biggest mistake the Red Sox ever made was not finding a way to keep Mookie Betts.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I mean, they could have done that. They had I remember watching the World Series in 2004 when they finally won it. And I was out here and I'm in Wisconsin now, but I was in Minnesota then. And just not being in Boston for that was just bummed me out because what a party that was, and after it kind of like, but it kind of like after that, they kept winning. And, for the next 10 years, they were in and out of it, and it's somehow not the same. And now it's like, well, you guys aren't underdogs anymore because after, 88 years or something like that, they finally won it again. It was like, that's great. But now what? It's like, you have to start the clock over again. All right, well, in 50 years from now, when you haven't won another one, I guess we can figure out who the curse was.
The Mookie Betts won in 2018, and they haven't won since, but the Red Sox have done some good as well. Like I will admit to this, the Red Sox biggest mistake was not keeping Mookie Betts, and that might be the biggest mistake since Babe Ruth. I think you are looking at probably the next big Hall of Famer, right there, next to Trout, Guerrero, Ohtani, Tatis. Like he is up there. He is definitely going to be. He might even get 3,000 hits, assuming we don't have any more of these seasons and we don't have like these delays and everything. And he actually legitimately gets 3,000 hits, which I think he's
Yeah, I wish
Dude,
I wish
he really is
like I said, I'm
one of
not
the
a
best
sport.
hitters I've seen in quite some time, and I'm not. And he's a contact hitter. He's not a home run hitter necessarily.
Yeah, not being much of a sports fan. All of the people you just said, they could walk in this room and I wouldn't know who they were. But I would as far as baseball goes, I like the sport. I like if there's a sport I had to watch. Okay, like I absolutely can't stand to watch football. It bores me to tears. I can watch some basketball, but baseball is just there's something about it. I think growing up and going to Fenway is just something that there's a nostalgia to baseball that none of the other sports seem to have. And I wish they'd just honestly just shut up and play. You know what I mean?
100%.
Shut up and play, guys. It's ball. It's just let's get out there and play and have some fun. You're all making millions of dollars. There's no reason you should complain about anything.
Yeah, or hundreds of thousand if you're like making like the league minimum. But it hurt. But guess what? It hurts the minor league players. It hurts the people who just got in there and are making like $600,000 a year and are getting like mincemeat on it. Like I don't know, not Cedric Mullins, but okay, let's just say some really bad guy on the Orioles, because let's beat up on my hometown team for a moment.
Yeah, the worst guy in the Orioles, but he's making he's probably making $500,000 a year.
Probably 600,000 at this point.
So this
depending
is
on league minimums.
These guys should just be so eager to play, and so they should be so thankful for having living in a place where there's so many millions of people that just want to see them go have fun and do their thing and be at the top of their game and be the best at it. And it seems like baseball itself, they just, when this kind of stuff comes up, they just start losing their minds.
I wasn't really around that much in 94. Because I have like no memory of 1994 because I'm like not even alive for part of the year, and I'm thinking, like, looking back on it, you had the greatest season that never was. Tony Gwynn could have easily been a 400 hitter, and he would have passed Robin Yount by the end of his career, or maybe even George Brett, depending on how things go. He passes them. I don't know what happens with his chewing tobacco situation, and he died of cancer of the mouth. That was
that was a problem in there. I remember I moved out to Minneapolis in 1987, which is, for baseball, was a pretty good year to move to Minneapolis. That was the year they won the World Series, and they did it again. 89, I think they won again.
No, 91, and you had Kirby Puckett.
Yep, Kirby Puckett. And so 87 they won, and then in 91 they won again.
Yeah, and that's before my time.
Yeah, no, that's when I was in college. I mean, I remember the 87 one because the riots after the game were similar to the George Floyd riots. Actually, I was downtown and they were flipping police cars and burning stuff and breaking windows. And I'm like, so this is what you guys do out here. All right. Well, I just moved out here. I'd been there for like 2-3 months. And then they won the World Series. We jumped in a car and drove downtown Minneapolis. I lived in Minneapolis. And I was like, wow, this is different than they do it in Boston. We all go out and party and get crazy, but they were flipping cars and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. I guess that's what they do out here.
I don't really remember, and also there were 2 more riots after that, but they wound up in British Columbia, the Vancouver Canucks. You had, I really remember 1994 looking back on the Rangers and Canucks, and naturally I rooted, I'm glad the Rangers won that with Messier, Adam Graves, and not Greg Adams, or Adams was his last name, and you had Mike Richter, and then you had Pavel Bore, the Russian Rocket, probably. And if you don't know who he is sort of like the Charles Barkley of hockey, because
I know who you're talking about.
He got to the finals. He certainly looked like he could have, the Canucks certainly could have won that series, if a few things just go a little differently, um, and he would have had it sort of like Charles Barkley in like 96 with against Jordan, I think, or am I
Yeah.
getting my
Yeah.
years wrong?
Yeah. Barkley and Jordan, that was the rivalry there.
Yeah.
In basketball, that was my brother used to sing the national anthem at the Celtics games in Boston in the 80s and 90s. So that was, I followed basketball pretty closely back then.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
Messier and Burry were not rivals in that way, because it was just the one time. And then in 2011, when I actually do remember, you had a bunch of these parody accounts. Like I remember this one YouTube channel that were making these, like parody music videos of like Kesha and Bruno Mars,
Yeah.
For the Vancouver Canucks, and they were, and this is also another good if you have that talent, it's also a good reason to promote yourself on United Masters. They were doing everything in their power, like they were doing like the Carrie Underwood parody of like Before He Cheats, like it was, that song was really hard to write for them, and I understand why, based on the tempo, the rhythm as well. But I remember the one song, like they were pairing the Lazy song, and are you familiar with Bruno Mars much?
Yeah. A little bit.
Like they were doing like the Canucks are in the Stanley Cup Finals. It's been 17 years, and being 17 at the time, and it's junior year for me. Thinking like, oh, Vancouver's in the finals, like it was so rare to see a Canadian team in the finals, because you don't get that much
Right.
Anymore. And last year in 2021, probably the most unlikely matchup was the Canadians facing the Lightning, which it's supposed to be best of the West and best of the East,
right?
Typically in the Stanley Cup Finals, but the way they did their round robin didn't add up. And fortunately, the Lightning, who I was rooting for, defeated them in 5 games.
There you go.
We
had you talk about those things, and I'll tell you this quick story, and then if I wrap it up, I try to keep these to about an hour. But in 1986, I was a senior in high school, and that's when the Patriots and the Bears were in the Super Bowl, and the Bears came out with a song called the Super Bowl Shuffle. I don't know if you've ever heard it. It's
like we are the Bears and everything.
Exactly.
I've heard a little bit of it.
It's awful. And then so the Patriots had to come out with something. And both of these were all over MTV back when MTV played music, and they were both just terrible. And then the Patriots lost. And I think that's why I don't like football, is because I'm still mentally scarred from that whole process of that 3 weeks before the Super Bowl back then, of all the craziness that was going on. And then my team lost.
Did you see the Super Bowl recently with Joe Burrow and not Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford?
No, I haven't watched the Super Bowl since it was the Patriots and the Green Bay. So that was a long time ago.
I talked to Amy about this 2 weeks, and I was like rooting for Joe Burrow. And you think, growing up a Ravens fan, I would be rooting for the Bengals of all teams.
Yeah.
In that Super Bowl would be just nuts. I do not like LA. I do not like the Dodgers. Mookie Betts is just icing on the cake for that one.
Yeah.
Don't like him. Lakers, not really, even though you have, Kobe, like I'll appreciate Kobe Bryant and Shaq. I'll appreciate their duo.
Oh yeah.
But I'll appreciate even Jonathan Quick and his 2 Stanley Cups. But no, I do not like LA teams for the most part.
Yeah, I don't either. I guess, you know what, we can leave it with that. I would like to say, if I'll give you an opportunity to plug whatever website, online any other social media or anything that we haven't mentioned yet, that you want to mention those right now?
Okay. Instagram at the Goalie Kid Podcast. And then you can also search up my name and you'll see Adam Rothstein at the Goalie Kid Podcast. You'll see a black and white icon of a goalie. Also, check out my website, rothsteinvoiceovers.com. I have e-cards. You can message me there as well. And if you want to get into voice acting or anything, I'm your man. To get your audiobook published on all the big ones as well. Check out Chess, the Game for Peace and Prosperity, that book. And also check out my Gumroad for my 2 courses, the audio mastery course and the publish mastery course as well, to help get your audiobook and also learn a little bit about audio and publishing books as well. Those 2 courses are great for beginners. So yeah.
Very cool. Well, Adam, thanks so much for indulging me and coming on. And we'll see you on the network, in the Nomad Network for everyone. I will put a link to the Nomad Network. You can join us on there too. And thanks for watching. I believe this was episode 11, and we will talk to everybody later.